So field work at Common Power is the heart of what we do. It is the reason for the organization's existence. We do other things that are really, really important too, such as education and field work. I'm sorry, education and leadership development. But they are all in service of doing work out in the field. Ultimately, what we do at the doors when we talk to people, or on the phones when we talk to people, or postcarding when we're communicating to people, or texting, or handing out flyers, is the really nuts and bolts of democracy. It's the basics. It's the fundamentals of democracy. And one of the reasons that the Democrats did not do as well nationally in 2020 outside of the presidential race that they hoped to do is because the Republicans ran their field campaigns all the way through the pandemic. And the Democrats were much more, reasonable and health-wise thoughtful about this and careful. And so in many, many places around the country, the field work campaigns of Democrats were much reduced compared to what they usually would be. And so we're part of making sure that doesn't carry over, and we're back to the things that we started with in 2018 and 2019, which is teams traveling to do work in states under the leadership of our partner organizations, led by certainly interracial and intergenerational teams with a largest possible dose of younger folks taking the lead. So that's what we do, and I love it. Probably nothing makes me prouder or happier about Common Power than the field work that we're doing. And we are going to be in many states this fall. I want to show you something here. Can I have the, I'm going to pop over, I'm going to take over the screen share. Okay, Puya. I want to show you this slide here, which is from a lecture that I just did Monday night. And this is action right now that we can take. And this was for the fundraiser. So I'm just showing you the slide that I was using. Our goal is to send 100,000. That'd be great. That's our 2024 goal, to send 100 plus volunteers into the field to raise $200,000 to do that by the end of this week. And it's about $2,000 per volunteer to send in the field. Many of those volunteers are next generation leaders, many of whom might be voting for the very first time in this election. But what I showed folks in that moment on Monday is our calendar, our fieldwork calendar, which is on our webpage. When you go up to fieldwork, it's there under fieldwork calendars, or you go to events and it's right there at the top of the events page as well. You can click on it. But this is the last 2 weeks of September, and every purple box is some kind of state-based action or focus, okay, for one of the states that Common Power is involved in. This is our October calendar, and every box, again, represents action for one of our fieldwork teams in that month of October. And then this is the first 10 days of November. And you can see lengthy windows in several boxes, because that means the teams are in the field for multiple days. So I look at this and I just love it. And on my wall right over here, I have a year-long calendar where I can map out activities, and I have both 2022 and 2023 because I need to know and see plans way in advance to events and things that we're committed to or that I can commit to. And so when I look at us at Common Power and I see these commitments that we've made, led by folks like Kylie and Puya and Victoria and Bin and so many others, then I feel like, okay, we're achieving our mission. Like, that's our number one thing to do, And so we're here to ask you to join us in the adoption of 3 new states in this work. And so I want to show you those 3 states, and then we're going to come back to Puya's slides. This is a map that is currently just whizzing around everywhere on the internet for the last 6 weeks, basically. This is a map of the pro-choice kind of public opinion distribution state by state in this country as of 2020. And so the numbers that you see per state is
I don't
the,
think we're seeing your
Hey,
map.
David.
oh, you're not seeing that? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for telling me. Okay, we back now? We good?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks,
Yeah,
Randy.
totally. Totally. Thanks. This is the distribution by state of the pro-choice kind of public opinion sentiment per state. And this is using 2020 data around the country. And it was put together by this awesome online collection of kind of political analysts that write for something called Split Ticket. And Lakshya Jain, who's a lecturer at Cal, is kind of the lead of this. And this is the best available public opinion data they could get per state as of 2020, when polling on whether or not the population, the adult population, was more pro-choice or pro-life, or either pro-choice or anti-abortion. And the numbers show you what the distribution is, with the blue being more pro-choice and red being more anti-abortion. So when you look at these states around the country, you get a sense of the large pro-choice distribution that's present in the United States in a lot of states. And this gives us some real insight into why the Dobbs decision, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, is such a monumental moment, not only for 2022, but I believe for the next long arc of American politics. It's going to define us for the next several years, probably a decade plus, until we get some laws really solidified around this and the court hopefully turned around. But these are the states that we are in right now that we've already committed to long-term at Common Power. Each of the circled states, Wisconsin, and then what we call kind of our Southern Smile, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Arizona. And when you look at those states, you begin to get some sense of the distribution of public opinion that gives the Democrats a fighting chance in states that they used to be losing in for a long time. In a Virginia that is much more solidly a blue state now. In North Carolina, which is really, really purple, super purple. Georgia, which is super purple. Texas, which is getting close to purple. And then Arizona, wow, that's very interesting. So these are the states that are out there that we're already invested in, and we're sending teams to all of these. We won't be going to Virginia this fall, most likely, because we really target it in 2020 in the odd numbered years, but we're in all of these other states with teams and traveling. We've decided to add 3 more states, and that's the focus tonight. 3 more states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. And in each of those states, the pro-choice sentiment is strong. In particular in Nevada, which often surprises a lot of people. There is a sentiment among a kind of a conventional wisdom that Latino or Latinx voters are culturally conservative on a whole host of positions. And the data just do not bear that out on the issue of abortion. Okay, they do not bear it out in Nevada or in Arizona or in Texas or in Florida. The positions of Latino voters on the question of abortion rights tends to be more liberal than most of the other segments, including Black Americans in the Democratic coalition. So Nevada is very interesting. So we're going to add these 3 states, and we're going to add them because they're strategically important for us as an organization, for this country. And they also represent strong pro-choice states that we think we can leverage them forward in 2022. So I'm going to come off of sharing here, and Puya, can you toss up your slides? And we're going to start with Pennsylvania. And what I'll try to do is give you 3 minutes of what I'm going to call rapid fire things about each state. And then we'll stop and see if there's any questions about each state with one of the kind of team leads who's here about the work there. So in Pennsylvania, the 3 main campaigns that we're working on is Josh Shapiro running for governor, John Fetterman running for senator in what is the senator's seat is a currently Republican held seat in the Republican Chris Toomey, can't remember his first name. Pat Toomey is retiring. So that's a potential flip seat for the Dems. And then Matt Cartwright, who is in one of the most competitive congressional House seats in the country. In fact, the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, had just announced their advertisement purchases for the next 2 weeks, and Cartwright's district is number 7 on their list as in terms of significance. So these are going to be the districts we're going to work in, I think, and Kylie will tell us for sure if that's true or not. But here's why Pennsylvania is so important generally. The Republican legislature is highly gerrymandered, so they have control of the state legislature. That means the governor's seat is where you get to veto laws or at least nudge the state a variety of important ways, is so very important. And Josh Shapiro is the most popular Democrat in the state when you look at recent elections. He's won more votes than any other Dem, very popular attorney general. He's likely to be a presidential candidate in probably the next 8 years. Just put it over on your table, like up on the kind of like over there. Josh Shapiro will be running for president in the next 8 years, and he will be a very formidable candidate. And he's a lawyer. He's a really decent human being, and he's running against one of the worst human beings you could ever find. Okay, Doug Mastriano, who is a Christian nationalist, thinks that the election was overturned, was there on January 6th at the White House, has said that he wants no exceptions for abortion whatsoever, yada, yada, yada. So Shapiro's got a great chance to win the governor's race. And in fact, we have to make it so, because if he doesn't win the governor's race, then the Republicans have the legislature plus the governorship, which means they have the trifecta and can do pretty much whatever they want. All right. So the governor's race really matters. Fetterman can flip the seat from Republican to Democratic. That would be an awesome pickup. Fetterman's a really interesting dude. He walks around with shorts. I can't imagine. He walks around with shorts, and it's got this bald head, which I'm on my way to. But he's really quite progressive on a number of things. And he's kind of the test of the Democrats. Can they win back white working class voters? And this dude who's like 6'8", 6'9" tall, and the way he kind of walks around with a big hulking kind of presence, has great popularity among Trump voters, even in Pennsylvania. So Fetterman is a strong Democratic candidate. He's struggling through health problems. He suffered a stroke about 4 months ago, and he's recovering. And this is a point of contention about whether his health is up to being a senator. He's running against Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz, who's a poor fit for the state, has lived in New Jersey most of his life, is a weak candidate, and position just got to help him bring it home. We got to help him bring it home. Cartwright is a very competitive race, as I said, and we can make a difference. There've been 2 internal polls released in the last week in the Cartwright campaign, one by the Republican and one by the Democrat. Internal polls should always be taken with a huge grain of salt. Whatever they show you, you should knock 4 or 5 points off of it for the candidate who releases it. So if I released an internal poll for my campaign, you should say it's probably 4 or 5 points worse for David than actually what these numbers show. And Cartwright's opponent, Bognet is his last name, can't remember his first name, released a poll that showed him tied with Cartwright, which is not what you want when you're releasing an internal poll. Cartwright then responded with his own internal poll, which showed him up by 8. That's what you're looking for if you have an internal poll. So if I was going to Vegas, which I will be doing for Nevada, if I go, the reality is I'd put money on these candidates. All right, I'd put money on them, but we got to help get them over the line. And Common Power is evaluating our long-term commitment to Pennsylvania. There's some really compelling evidence that it's a place that we might want to reinvest again long-term. But for right now, we need to be there in the next couple months. And Ben Trong and Kylie Knowles are leading our teams out, leading our trip out there. And so, Puya, can we come off a screen share? And Kylie, anything you want to add, or let's open it up for any questions.
Thanks so much, David. Hi, everyone. As David said, I'm co-leading this trip with Ben. I just wanted to give a little more context on the trip. Ben is going to be leading y'all on the ground, and I'm helping with like partner organization and travel logistics. So happy to answer any questions. We also do have a slide with kind of the basic information. I'm happy to read that too, but just for visual learners, maybe pop that up just for a second, but I definitely want to open up for a conversation. But our travel dates are going to be Thursday, October 13th.
Puya, can you pop that back up, please?
Yeah. Thanks, Puya. Monday, October 17th. So weekend there. We have set our date for our pre-departure meeting. It's going to be October 7th at 5 p.m. And then I will drop in the chat the link to the commonpower.io page, and as well as the travel form. So I think, give people a sec to see that, and then happy to just chat with folks. Let me put the link.
John Boy had a question, and
Oh.
John, I'm going to answer it for you, or unless you have another one. It is the case that the governor appoints the Secretary of State in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
thanks for, Booyah already answered that, but
Okay, awesome.
feel free to put a stopwatch on me, David, because I have a tendency to ramble. But just to explain, I have a conflict in that I'd like to phone bank against Ron Johnson. I'd like to phone bank against the PA candidates and probably a couple others. Am I allowed to pace myself? Because in 2020, I tried to do everything I could, and by the end of it, I was exhausted. So just a general question: is one allowed to jump from one team? I'm already on Texas team, which we call the impossible dream. Is one allowed to jump from one team to another as time allows?
Kylie or Pooya or Victoria, that's for you.
Yeah, happy to answer that. Yeah, you're absolutely able to jump, kind of pick your own adventure. I think especially for the remote work that we're going to be doing, we're going to be working to make that super easy for volunteers. We're actually going to centralize our remote opportunities this fall. So absolutely, not only welcome, but encouraged if you have the time. And yeah, if there's anything, Pooya or Victoria, you want to add.
Okay, thanks. And just to put in a plug for Kylie, I think you were part of the 2020 Back to Blue Pennsylvania team.
Yes, yeah, I did work with Nancy LaRusso led that state team that year, and it was super great getting to work with the partners there. So I've just dropped a few links in the chat, the .io group. So anyone who isn't aware yet, we have an online community platform where we do all of our communication for fieldwork. It's called commonpower.io. So this is the best way to get in touch with us if you have questions. I dropped in the overview document, which details all the information about the trip, participation timeline, partners, where we're going, travel logistics, our recommended flights, hotel, that stuff. And then the last link that I dropped was the travel sign up form. And I see Randy and Lois have a question there. Where is Cartwright's district, and is that where you'll be going? Yes, we will be going there. It's the 8th congressional district. And we're going to be mostly working in Monroe County. If you're familiar with like Pennsylvania geography, it's kind of northeastern Pennsylvania. We're actually going to be flying in to the great home state of Dr. Oz, New Jersey, and then driving to Pennsylvania.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're actually scheduled to go to Pennsylvania next week and are currently scheduled to fly back on October 13th. We'll be visiting family there, but we're considering staying on.
Awesome. No, that would be great. Oh, the last thing that I'll mention, we have a partnership with an organization called Seed the Vote, which is really similar to Common Power in the sense that they have volunteers that travel to other states to do voter work, but they do only nonpartisan work. So, and they're doing a bunch of work in Pennsylvania this fall. So we did want to add that as an opportunity. We have this one trip, but if like, David said, this is a really important state. If you are interested in doing more work, there will be opportunities for that through a partner organization.
Hey, Randy and Lloyd, let me ask you a question too. My goal is to get, or our goal, and I have bets riding on this, so like money involved here, is to get 20 to 30 people for each of these teams. All right. So if you've got anybody else in the PA dope area out there who might join the team for a day or two for his canvassing. Or you might rally a person or two from around here who might be interested in going. Part of our goal here is to excite everybody who's on this call, but also hope that everybody might crazily ask another person to go with them. And it's not like you're asking them to like go to a religious cult with you or anything. It's just like, hey, would you be willing to do something for our democracy? And they'll of course going to likely say no, but you never know. And so since you might be out there and everybody else, that's like an ask that we have of everybody is we're trying to build these teams. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, we know a lot of people around the area there, so we'll definitely think about that.
Awesome.
Are you going to Delaware County at all?
That's Philadelphia area. That's where we'll be.
Oh, no, what?
It's not so far from where you're going, so we could drive up there.
Yeah, not too far. I think it's like a 2-hour drive from where we'll be working to Philly. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be working in that county. We'll mostly be in Monroe County. The specific areas that we're going to be in, I'm probably going to butcher these names. Woolbaugh, Tobyhanna, and Mount Pocono. I can say Mount Pocono. And then Strasburg.
Yeah, and we're going to these places because that's what our folks there are telling us they want us.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, David. Yeah.
Okay. Any otherybody else got questions about Penn PA? Okay. Excellent. Then we'll go on to next one. Is Michigan next on the slides? Yes, great. So Michigan, like Pennsylvania, is part of what was thought to be this unbreakable Democratic kind of wall or group of states that Donald Trump won all 3 of in 2016, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And then just around there, you have Ohio and Iowa as well. And Michigan and Pennsylvania both swung, and Wisconsin both swung back towards the Democrats narrowly in 2020. But in 2018, Michigan and Pennsylvania, unlike Wisconsin, went hard to the Dems, strong to the Dems. And so there is a long kind of blue tradition in Pennsylvania and Michigan. And in this particular election, the dynamics that are in play in Michigan are pro-democratic strongly. Okay. First of all, these 4 candidates right here are part of a cluster of about, I think, 8 or 9 outstanding female candidates that are running in the state, including Gretchen Whitmer in the governorship, who will be running against Josh Shapiro for president down the road. Okay, those two will be both. Whitmer, if she wins re-election in a big way this year, is going to be a strong Democratic candidate at the national level in the future. Alyssa Slotkin is over on the left side of that screen, is running in the Michigan 7th. She is the only candidate in the country, the only Democratic candidate in the country whose district voted for Obama, Trump. Okay. And so she holds in a district that is a huge swing district. It's been gerrymandered a little bit to make it even harder for her. But she's a great candidate, a future senator in that state, future governor in that state, probably. And we've been working for her since 2018, and she's awesome, and they love us. And so we'll be working for her out of the Lansing area. Hillary Schulten is over in the western part of the state in Grand Rapids, trying to become the first female to hold the Michigan 3rd. She's running against a guy by the name of John Gibbs, who news broke just about an hour ago that John Gibbs, when he was in college at Stanford, created an organization online called the Organization for the Critique of Feminism, something like this, in which he wrote all of these pieces in which he said women shouldn't have the right to vote. All right, that in American society, we'd be better off if we returned to the founding fathers' vision. No women voting, nobody under the age of 18 voting, nobody who's not a U.S. citizen is voting. He didn't delve into race because he's African American himself, but he has all these horrible perspectives and viewpoints, and he has called for a national abortion ban beginning at conception. And so he's terrible, and Schulten has got a great chance. She's a teacher to beat him. And so we're going to work for those two candidates in their congressional districts. And while we do work for them, we'll be doing work, of course, for the statewide races of the governorship. Jocelyn Benson is one of the most awesome Secretary of States in the country, has stood up to Trump wonderfully in 2020. She's great. She's running against a Secretary of State who's an election denier. There's just so many great things about the candidates and the process in Michigan. I think we've got the capability in Michigan to win and win big. In 2018, when we worked in Michigan, we helped to pass a host of electoral reforms, which included an independent redistricting commission. So the districts that are drawn in the state are actually they're not gerrymandered, they're fairer than they used to be. And because of that, the Dems have a chance to pick up some seats at both the House level and the state level. So it could be an incredible year in Michigan. All of it helped by two statewide ballot initiatives. One is enshrining the right to an abortion in the state constitution. So abortion rights is literally on the ballot in Michigan, and a second ballot initiative which will further enhance voting reforms and protection in the state. So, a set of reforms about absentee balloting, permanent mail-in voting lists, ability to vote out of district. These are under a heading called the Promote the Vote reforms. And so those two elements of ballot statewide initiatives, the abortion rights one and the Promote the Vote, really is going to energize the Democratic base and hits home for us, obviously, as an organization. So Michigan is a state with a lot of attention and a lot of value for us, and we want to invest in the state tremendously. It's going to be important in 2024, as will Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. So having a Secretary of State, which will be determined by the governor in Pennsylvania, here it's an elected office. It's important to have a fair-minded Secretary of State there as well. And Jocelyn Benson is awesome. So Puya, do you want to pop to the next slide and then take it over? Because Puya is heading up the Michigan team.
Absolutely. So we are planning to have a bit of a longer trip. It will be from Wednesday, October 19th through the 24th. The first 2 days, the 20th and the 21st, will be spent with Hillary Schulten's campaign near Grand Rapids. And the 22nd, the 23rd will be with Alyssa Slotkin's campaign. They do have a volunteer lunch event with the candidate over there. Alyssa will be there as well. So we get to spend time with her. And we do have a pre-departure orientation meeting as well. We'll be on the 11th at 5 p.m. And similar to Pennsylvania, we already have a .io page up and running. There's a travel form, and there's a similar document as a Pennsylvania, like overview document with all the details about what's going on in Michigan and how you can join us. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them right now.
Where will you fly into Detroit?
Yes, so we are going to fly to Detroit on the 19th, and then we'll drive, and the hotel that we have reserved is in Lansing, East Lansing. So we'll drive, it's about an hour drive.
So I know there's a nonstop flights from Seattle to Philadelphia. I know there's nonstop flights from Seattle to Detroit, and that there are also nonstop flights to Las Vegas for the Nevada State team. Those matter. Those matter in terms of making it appealing to our travel endeavors. So we're going to be out there, and I'm going to be there for at least a couple days in this work in the state of Michigan. That's my home state. And I'm not interested in going back to where I grew up necessarily. It's a high blue district area now, Dearborn, Michigan, which is a home of the largest Arab American population in this country. So it's a very blue district. So I have no need to go do work there. But in these two districts, where Slotkin and Schulten are running, incredible swing districts, and the Michigan third would be a pickup for the Democrats, where Schulten is. That's currently been held by Peter Meyer, who is one of the few Republicans who voted for impeachment and then lost his primary against this terrible human being, John Gibbs. And that's opened the door for Schulten to have a possibility. So I really am hopeful of the possibilities in Michigan. And again, because it's mostly a Republican legislature, the governor's seat matters tremendously for the kinds of legislation that can be passed in the state. All right, let's go to Nevada then. So Nevada is a complicated political state. It is a state that has one of the largest, fastest growing voter populations in the country. But it also is a state in which the politics are complicated because 90% of the population lives in one county. All right, in Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is. So the population is incredibly concentrated in one county. Just as a point of reference, among the major American cities, the next closest large concentration within a state, within a single county, is Maricopa County, which is Phoenix, and they have 70% of the Arizona population. So Clark is the highest kind of concentrated county in the state, in the country, and the percentage of people who live in Nevada, who were born in Nevada, is the lowest in the country. It's 30% of people. So the allegiances and the transitoriness and the kind of like, there isn't these kind of long-term patterns that we can predict. It's been a state that Bush won, George W. Bush won, and then Barack Obama won, and then Hillary Clinton did win barely in 2016, and then Joe Biden won. In 2018, we did a lot of work there, and we helped to elect Jackie Rosen as a senator. We helped to elect Steve Sisolak, who's the governor and is up for re-election now. We helped to elect the first female majority legislature in the country, first female majority state legislature in the country. It now is not the only one, but it has the largest percentage of females in the legislature in the country. We helped to pass a voting automatic voter registration ballot initiative in the state, which is AVR is one of the most effective getting people registered to vote elements for any state. We have it in the state of Washington, passed it in 2017 when the Dems got control of the state legislature. And it is the AVR is the primary reason that Georgia has become much more blue, is because it automatically registers voters. So it's a long-term structural change that's going to make a difference in Nevada. But it's contested. These elections victories have not been large. They've been narrow. And so we're looking at probably a 1 to 3% margin either way this time. And at the heart of this are two people on that screen to the left. Sisolak is the governor, is a really important race, but I really, really want Catherine Cortez Masto to win re-election. She's the only Latina in the U.S. Senate. She is just brilliant. She is somebody who has been an advocate on immigration rights, on women's rights. And Susie Lee, who runs in the Nevada 3rd and is an incumbent, and that race is one of the top investments by the DCCC also. Susie Lee is an endangered incumbent for the Democrats. But if we're able to mobilize that pro-choice vote, because it's one of the strongest pro-choice populations in the country, and we're able to mobilize voters who are younger, which abortion rights may well help with, then we got a great chance to hold Nevada as a state. And we need it to hold the Senate with Cortez Masto. Susie Lee is an important seat in the House. And winning those seats would be, holding those seats would be extremely important to us. It's also a state where we have one of our closest partner contacts, someone we've worked with in Virginia, a person who we've worked with in Virginia, and then we worked with in Arizona, and now she's in Nevada. She's working with the state assembly, Liz Luna, and Liz is just phenomenal and appreciates us, and we love her. And she is going to dial us in and target our work there in the suburbs, most likely of Nevada, of Las Vegas. So can you pop the next screen up, Puya, please? And Victoria is going to tell us a bit about Nevada.
Yes, thank you, David. So hello, I'm Victoria. I'll be on the ground leading this trip. MJ, who isn't here with us, will also be helping lead this trip, but doing more logistical stuff. We'll be traveling Thursday, October 27th through Monday, October 31st. And we'll be working with our partner org, the Nevada Assembly Dem in Henderson, Nevada, and also working in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so while we'll get to knock on doors for the top of the ticket, we'll also be knocking on doors for Assembly members, Elena Marzola, who is in Assembly District 21, and also Sandra Howdiggy, who is in Assembly District 41. Both of these candidates are Latinx candidates, and our partners are really strategic about picking these two districts because Susie Lee is nestled in both of these districts. And so I hope those of you who can join us will. I think David did a really good job at letting you all know why this is an important state. So I don't think I need to do too much of that, but I will drop the links in the chat so that you all can kind of, have more information once you get off of this Zoom. And then also just like the pre-departure meeting will be October 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. But I'm gonna go ahead and drop the links in the chat for more information. And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, but definitely hope you all can join. Yeah, that's all I have. Oh, okay, thanks, Kylie. Kylie dropped the links in the chat, so they're here. But yeah. I see John Boy has a question.
Yeah, real quick, I hope. I've forgotten whether Nevada is an initiative state. So are there any referendums of ballot measures of interest this election?
I think, David, you got that.
Okay, for Nevada, that is.
Yeah, well, Victoria will have that shortly. She like, this is part of the journey for all of us. They are a ballot initiative state. That's how they passed automatic voter registration in 2018, and we helped pass it. Right now, there is no significant ballot initiative on the ballot. However, the conservatives are attempting to get an initiative on the ballot that would actually be a restrictive of voting rights ballot initiative. And I don't know the details exactly of it because it has been blocked right now in the ballot initiative process because of some chicanery that's involved. But it's possible that'll be there. But right now, John Boy, there's not anything that's driving us there.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, I'm here. I'm Jay, Maria. I'm not on, I'm just on voice, but yeah, in terms of that and more information to come around our partner. David mentioned Liz Luna. I've worked with her before. She's amazing. We're super excited. Well, I'm not able to go on the ground, but Victoria and Mary Ingram, who's one of our amazing volunteers, will be on the ground with you all who choose to go to Nevada. I will be supporting with logistics or any questions as well before travel. I'll be at the pre-departure meeting, and we're hoping that by then we definitely will be having more information around, maybe what else will be on the ballot that we're going to be talking about to voters when we're on the ground. Thank you all, and we hope that you join the trip.
Puya, can you take off the screen share, please? Because there's no more slides, right, Puya? Okay. What kind of things can any of us address for anybody about field work or about life? Anything?
Will Trump be indicted?
Oh, the odds are pretty good. At some point you will.
Cool.
Sure, Kathleen, go ahead.
So David, I noticed Florida's not on the list of where you're covering, which, okay. But I live part of the year in Florida, and I'm really following the campaign of Val Demings against Mark Rubio. And, it's been really, really close, and I've been getting money for years. Is that just really not even possible that she could beat Mark Rubio? And that's why there's no attention to from other people on that campaign?
It is possible, Kathleen, and Val Demings. I love Val Demings and would love to have us campaign for her. Florida is a tough state for the Democrats. They don't have a good campaign ground game. Their state party's been in disarray for a long time. Even in 2018, a really good year for the Democrats, they lost a Senate seat in there with Nelson, and it broke our hearts because we invested a lot in that state. So here's what I'll say, is that we are keeping our eye on Ohio and Florida. We're going to wait to see if things break one way or another because they could break towards the Democrats. What would that look like to break towards the Democrats? Well, it's possible that the issue of abortion becomes even more salient than it is right now, because the Republicans are about to release a kind of a contract with America position. That is their House of Representatives commitments. And one of them includes a federal ban on abortion. So we'll see if they do that. If they do that, that will elevate the salience of it. What else could do this? It could be Ron DeSantis getting arrested for his absolutely heinous actions around immigrants and using them as props. So that could play a role. So a couple of things could happen. And, these do happen late in campaigns. Stuff happens. So we're keeping our eye on it. Right now, Demings is probably down by about 5 to 8 points. All right. But that's a doable if Marco Rubio does something really dumb, which is very possible also. But you need some breaks to win when you're down 5 to 8. So we're keeping our eye on it.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Go ahead, Randy and Lois.
Yeah, we've done some door knocking in the past, but not with Town Power, and we haven't been on any of the field work yet. Are there some training sessions between now and this trip that we should partake in?
That is a great question. Is it Randy? Thank you for your question. Yes, so for the folks who are going to travel with Common Power, there is an Intro to Common Power fieldwork that is on. The next one is actually on September 28th, so next week. And it is hosted by myself and Charles, and we will walk through the whole experience of someone who travels with us. So it's a great way to understand like how we travel, how we work on the ground. So I welcome you. I invite you to join us. It's on the fieldwork Common Power page, on the fieldwork, not on the fieldwork, sorry, on the events page, on the events calendar, and also on a Common Power IO. So if you're familiar with Common Power IO, you can find it there, but also on our Common Power website on the events calendar.
Okay, great. I think we're actually flying east on the 28th. Will that be
recorded? It is recorded also. Yes, exactly. So it is recorded. We do have, if you go on our website as well, there's a training page that you can find underneath the fieldwork tab. And it is, we have a recording already on there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Well, let's pop up the screen here for a second, Maria, and make sure, and this is what Charles would do if he was here.
He would do that. I can't pop mine on because I'm on my phone, but can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, Charles is here. He just posted the training page in the chat.
I know,
Oh
Charles
God,
is always with us. Charles is always with us. It's a comforting feeling. Okay, so here's the okay, where should I go, Maria?
Awesome. So if you go under field work, there's
Yep.
like a few, or there's a few, there you go, it says training page, I believe, down there, right? Or no? Is it
Yep.
on the, oh, there you go. So you go down below, and that is, there's a link to the recording, but there's also an invitation for the next upcoming one. And if you go all the way down, there's a couple different things that folks can look into. Tomorrow we have an awesome compassionate listening training by one of our volunteers. And that will be about talking about how to talk to voters and how to be compassionate when we're at the doors and when we're doing remote work. And then at the very bottom, you can find some really good things about Common Power IO and how to use Common Power IO to connect with the teams like, you know, Nevada, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, but also our other teams. And then the events tab is right there. So if you go to the events, it shows the calendar. And that's where you can find mostly all the ones, all the events of Common Power. But we also have a specific fieldwork calendar that's on the fieldwork tab.
Right, that's the calendar right there with all the events, and then right up here is the link for the fieldwork calendar. And I assume, Maria, that if other travel were to get added, it just is going to get posted right away on the fieldwork calendar, right? It'll get added.
Correct. Yeah. So all the teams that are traveling for Pennsylvania and things like that in Nevada have already been, I believe, have already been added on there. But yes, yes, any trip, any fieldwork thing related, it will be on the fieldwork calendar.
David, what I'm concerned about is you say you work with the partner organizations, so you have to be a little educated of what it is they want you to say when you go working for a particular candidate. And so where do we get that information prior to knocking on our first door?
Oh, these are classic questions right here, Lois. These are the classics right here. Yes.
That's a really
I
good
don't want to go
question.
knocking on the door if I know nothing about the candidate. I know nothing about what the partner org wants me to say. You know, just having how you work in the past is not helping me. I need to know something about that candidate.
Okay.
Totally understand that, Lois. I think that's a great question to raise. I will say for these trips, the partner organization info will be on like the commonpower.io page. I can speak for Pennsylvania. We're going to be working directly with the Matt Cartwright campaign and then the state coordinated campaign. And the training will happen with our partners on the ground. So you will have that information as well. As John Boy just put in the chat, our boots, their ground. And so we trust them, train us, and we'll get all that information from them. And we have best practices for canvassing though. I mean, as you noted, you want to know more about the partner, but just to add that, we're also going to prepare folks the best we can for canvassing in general. And then the partners will specialize in what they would like us to say.
Oh, I hope I can be a quick learner because I don't want to approach a door being stupid, you know?
No, totally. I think whenever I'm, you know, for a candidate specifically, I like to kind of just read up on them on my own and see what, you know, I identify with their campaign because, you know, they'll have top issues and things that they care about. And so that's another way to prepare just so you know a little bit more about them going into it.
Great, thanks.
I was looking around my room because I unfortunately recently cleaned it, but I used to have a whole bunch of campaign literature. So the closest I've got right now is a bookmark, okay, which has, you know, content on both sides of it. And when you go out to door knock, you get literature from the candidates. And that literature right there is more than you'll ever need to know. More than you will ever be asked by any voter. Nobody really wants to have a 45-minute conversation with you. What we're really doing is knocking on doors and reminding people that there's an election and you need to get out and vote because we are deployed, Lois, into Democratic leaning districts. So the voters there are going to vote for the Dems overwhelmingly. They just need to vote. Earlier in the election cycle, sometimes we go out and do what's called persuasion work, where we go into districts where you have more conversations. We're not doing that when you get closer to the election. We're in what's called mobilization period. So you could just as easily show up there as you could in any airport you've never been to before and be able to navigate and find your way through it with just showing up on the ground the day of your first door knocking. I know that you don't believe me, and I understand, and we appreciate that level of desire to know all that information. That's a wonderful trait, and you will have more than enough information by the time you knock a door. All right, what else? Okay, well, my fieldwork colleagues here, Puya and Victoria and Kylie and Maria, are the reason why I'm part of Common Power. The work they do and that we get to do together is why I'm here. At the same time, I want to try to save democracy. So the ability to do it with really incredibly talented, driven, motivated, smart people who are figuring their way out and developing their leadership skills and helping us all to learn is like a win-win. So we would love to have you travel with us. We're going to do a few more of these rallies. Don't worry, Victoria, at all. I'll do them myself if you're busy. We're going to do a few more of these rallies because, again, I told you I have bets on the line here. So I want to make sure we get to certain numbers of people for each of these states. And also, if you can go to one state, then maybe you can go to two. Okay. And I know it costs money. We know that. We know that for sure. That's why we're raising fieldwork money to send out our volunteers, to do some small number of our volunteers to be able to do this, the folks who don't have the resources. And you will never regret spending the money on this because you have our commitment from our core that we will strategically deploy you. We will not waste your time. We're not going into high blue or high red areas. We're going into purple areas. We're going with the guidance of our partner organizations. We're going with leaders who know what they're doing. We're going with a certain kind of targetedness that's valuable. And we've got a kind of methodology that works. So much so that it's not uncommon for the campaigns in these states to refer out-of-state volunteers to work with us. Go work with Common Power. So thanks everybody for coming. I would love for you to sign up. We would love for you to sign up for all of these states right off the bat. Now, like before you even eat any dinner. Okay, that'd be awesome. So thank you all so much. And thanks team so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hi, David.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. See ya.